I'd like to share with you the most embarrassingly simple fact about making art that I learned way too late. Like really, it's really simple, and yet somehow I managed to not realize this sooner. Now, I'm not going to string you along and make this any longer than it needs to be because, like I said, it is embarrassingly simple, but once you realize it, you have to let it sink in for a while. And so the thing that I learned way too late is that artistic research is the process of trying things and then seeing how they feel. That's it. That's embarrassingly simple, and yet it's so relevant for me that it has caused shockwaves for me in the last few years of my life. You see, I grew up in a not particularly musical household, and then I went off to university to study something non-musical. I studied some science first, and then I did a humanities degree. But in my upbringing and in my education, one of the things that it was clear was that knowledge is out there and it's something that you can go out and learn, and very often it contradicts your intuition. So you shouldn't trust your own intuition. You should instead accept all the knowledge that people give to you. And if that overlaps with your intuition, that's bonus points, but you can never really trust your intuition. The facts are out there, they don't care about your feelings, and that's it. That's how you learn. And one of the things that does is it reduces your own awareness of your own internal voice, the little voice that says, I like this, or I don't like this, or this works for me, or this doesn't work for me. You're taught to kind of silence that because that's not where knowledge is going to come from. However, in the arts, that's the only place that knowledge is going to come from. Sure, there are still some facts out there, like how does a compressor work or how does audio engineering work, but learning those things doesn't bring you any closer to making good art. Making good art is 100% subjective and 100% dependent on the voice inside of you that's trying to tell you what's good and what isn't. And maybe I can tell you a little anecdote about drag queens. I've been really enjoying drag as an art form for the last few years. The biggest competition of drag in the world is RuPaul's Drag Race, right? And so there's the Belgian edition of that. And there's this one queen who won called Drag Queen. Their performances were super precise. Their outfits were super well researched. All the details were really paid attention to. And their self-confidence seemed kind of infinite. A very inspiring artist to see. And so one of the days after Drag Queen wins the crown, I'm kind of looking at their profile on Instagram and I see that they have their non-drag profile as well, where they're an actor. And on that acting profile, I see some posts from a year or two ago that are just super weird and conceptual and without any context. And what's happening in one of those videos is they're holding up a glass panel in front of a camera and they're just sort of making out with the glass panel slowly over the course of 45 seconds. And there's another reel of that and another reel of that. And that's just it. And that kind of blew my mind. But for me, that was kind of a eureka moment, which was that the image that this actor is putting out there, the practice of being in the world, for them was they try something, then they see what that feels like, and now they are more familiar with how their body works, with how their image works. And by default, they just do it in public because probably they don't identify too strongly with any particular piece of art, especially not research pieces like this. It's just for fun, it's just research. But now that they've tried that out, they know something more about who they are and what they can do and what they like and what they don't like. Another example of that might be the comedian called Brian Jordan Alvarez, who has a lot of great comedic material. However, during the pandemic, there were many, many moments when he would just set up a camera and without a lot of fuss, just launch a song and just dance to the song on camera with no editing happening afterwards and no funny punchline or no script or nothing. Just dancing and filming it and then probably evaluating it and saying, do I look good like this? How does that land? What parts of it are funny? What parts of it are charming? But just doing it and then afterwards seeing how it makes you feel. Art without too much worrying about how it's going to be received. It's like you make art without the pretense that this is the best that you can do or that it's somehow a high skill performance or something like that. I feel a bit weird telling an anecdote like that because it's not obviously related to electronic music, but it is related to the concept of making art in general and to you considering yourself as an artist. So let me bring it back to the original concept. The original concept was that artistic research is a process of trying things out and then seeing how they make you feel. So first of all, the challenge is to try things out. And in the beginning, in any art domain, you might be following sort of guidelines or tutorials. Trying something out might be, let me try to make a song like the ones that Oscar recommends in his foundations course, for example. Or let me try to follow that one tutorial that he did back then. And then you're kind of copying and then you see how that makes you feel and that gives you something. And then the next level of trying things out is to set yourself little challenges, to say, okay, I'm going to find out what my favorite drum machine sounds like through this new effect processor. And you just spend time with that. And you create content and you create content and you figure out to see how it makes you feel. And the point of all this is not to make the next hit single. Yet, the point of all of this is to understand better what attracts you and what makes you happy. And if you do this a lot, when the time comes for you to actually say something artistically, you have all these tools at your disposal. But until the time comes to put on that project manager hat and to say, I have to make something that has to go out into the world, first set yourself up with artistic research. And that can take years. That can take a long time, and it's very fun and it's very satisfying. But when you're in a phase of artistic research, just don't put yourself the pressure of achieving something in the outside world. Don't put yourself the pressure of this needs to get X amount of likes or this needs to get this kind of external validation. No, the only validation that your research needs is your own validation, your own attention. Does that make any sense to you? I feel like it's at the same time a super basic and obvious concept, and at the same time it's super nuanced, and it's a perspective that I really didn't have access to growing up in the context that I grew up with, the more academic way of thinking about knowledge that I was following before. As a little side note, the word research, of course, can mean several different things, and another way of doing research really is just looking up external facts about things. It's cool to do research, watching documentaries, getting the facts. That's super valuable, but that's not what I mean by artistic research. Artistic research is also one of the reasons why you see me dancing and putting special effects in all of my tutorial videos from before, because I want to figure out what kind of visual language I like, what kind of atmospheres I like in video, things like this. It's research. It's me getting to know my voice as a creator better. And to get to know yourself better as an artist, artistic research is the key. Thanks for humoring me on this rant. If this is a bit too abstract for you and you really just want to learn the basics of music production, follow my foundations courses. Little shout out to my techno label XY Secret. I'll leave a link in the description below. My vinyl is finally out. I'm absolutely loving the response that I'm getting to this one. My Positive Disintegration EP. Grab a copy before they sell out. Stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye bye.